Thank you. Finally forgetting.
He will be.
I felt very.
I think that counts as heckling.
Well, there's a huge difference between heckling and asking for more information and being in awe of presentation.
I didn't get a sense of awe.
Maybe that's just how you perceive it.
Maybe
more,
it could be.
Yeah.
There you go. There's something called spotlight for everybody. So in doing this, because they're more passive, they wouldn't be the picture shown. Because Mark or whoever it is speaking, it would instantly do this here.
Yeah.
So, but by clicking on the sidebar, you can go spotlight for everybody, and it puts their picture up on there rather than the active person.
Interesting.
I've just discovered that. So
They, what I never knew is that they have themselves up. Is it a spotlight for every single viewer? So are they only viewing themselves?
no, they're viewing us. They choose what they want.
Their own. Everyone chooses their own spotlight.
And so actually for them, the best one for them to choose is a little phone, because it's pointing at our faces. Whereas that camera is pointing at our backs.
We should have just turned, shouldn't we?
I know, this is the problem. That's why I put it up as something like, hang on, this isn't what we're trying to achieve. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. If we drop off, there is a pretty significant storm over the top of us, and the thunder was just rattling the windows. So
Okay.
we'll just reconnect.
Okay. I mean, this next session is Mark is talking about Church Suite. So, but obviously read Church Suite, read the planning center. You know, it's the thinking. So I liked what was being talked about, the link tree and stuff like that, because that seems to be us bringing the different parts together. So hopefully Mark's nearly ready. Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, this must be a draft. It could be a draft now, but it's gone.
The front door's open.
Oh,
That's what's happening. Yeah. There's one big thing actually. I can't find the paperwork anywhere we bought those doors from. The company where we got the glass doors from, because I need them to come and readjust and replace the fittings and. I don't know. I can't find any details.
Paul Thompson didn't know?
He won't know.
I don't think he did the dealings with
No,
them.
he didn't. It was Martin. It was either Martin or Gordon, one or two.
So I can't ask Gordon. Or if he answers, I'll be slightly worried.
You got a problem.
So
Yeah, and they had, at one point, there was a whole system of all the contractors that
Hang on,
they
maybe
had
I'll
as a
put them
file.
here.
Obviously,
long gone.
Yeah.
Probably.
They're on the chair. Which chair? He walked in. I thought I gave him to. Here, darling, they're here.
You hadn't one.
Well, the M&Ms.
You're such a blessing,
M&S
Mark.
nice.
They were nice. Did you taste?
No, I
haven't
haven't tried
tried
them
that.
yet.
I'm
They were
saving
great.
mine for Easter Sunday, and then I'm going to gorge myself on this chicken that I've not had for 40 days. No, I'm not. I'm going to continue to exercise self-control.
Well
I've given
done.
up not eating chocolate.
Such a good idea. I'm going to do that next year
Good.
when I'm
Give it up
skinny,
and not
when I can afford to do it.
I was just joking with
as
somebody.
long as we finish before 5:30, we'll be trying to get into the restaurant with a bit of a break. So details of the restaurant are on there. So near the media city. Right, depending on what you want. Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh.
Sorry, I just thought you said it was going to watch it. No, that's okay. But I thought somebody else was going to say something. Sorry. Okay, so I've been asked to just do 15 minutes on Church Street. I have got some notes which I've typed up, which I'll email out. I've got some printed off copies next door for anyone who wants a copy in here. I think the two things that I just wanted to kind of pull out, a sort of background to all of this, as to why it's possibly worked. I kind of sat there and thought, why has the communication started to work for us much better through Church Street? Why is Church Street working better for us, full stop? And I think there are two kind of decisions I came to. Others may have another view. This is what I came to. But I think the first one is we kind of made a decision over time, but kind of got to the point where we decided to use it fully. That it was kind of like we were going to make Church Street work for us, which required us to kind of change how we did a few things. It was a little bit like when we came back from the first lockdown in COVID, Pastor Alan and Claire were like, we are going to make church happen. Don't know how. We've got to work out all the restrictions, all the different bits and pieces, but we're going to make it happen in person. Which worked for us in the long run, because when we then had future lockdowns, we weren't trying to work out, what do we do? We just went, well, this is what we do. Because we'd made a decision to use it, we then found a way to use it. And I almost think the same thing happened with Church Street. If you decide to kind of have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I'm not sure if this works and does it work, it will never work. And that kind of almost creates that cycle of going, oh, it doesn't work. I proved it doesn't work. Therefore, I don't carry on. Whereas actually, you kind of almost got to go, this is how we're going to do it. You've then got to work out what that means. I get that, the nuts and bolts. But it kind of making that starting point decision is, I think, crucial in getting Church Street to work. So if we just try to use it partially or just because we have to, then it won't be the great tool that it can be. Yeah. And actually, the more we're beginning to use it, the more we're discovering, oh, it does this, and it does this, and it does this, and oh, we can use it in that way, and we can adapt it this way. And actually, it's proving to be an incredibly beneficial tool to us in the church.
Even sending out birthday cards.
So I think the second thing that was really important for us was actually looking at how we sold it to the end user, to the church. The mistake we made, I know I've said this in the past, but the mistake we made is that when we set it up, we initially set it up as a database, and that's how we sold it. And that did not work because nobody wants to join up to a database. So nobody saw any benefits to it. So it was one of those that we had to sell it as the one-stop shop for church. Yeah. Now, I know it's not the one-stop shop because you've got things like the Bible app, we've got WhatsApp groups that people are on, we've got Zoom meetings that take place, we've got the website, there's a lot of other things, but actually if you sell it as the one-stop shop, people get on board and then that helps. We were fortunate, I'll be honest, that COVID forced us. Hang on, let me rephrase that. We had started in the January before COVID to make a real effort to get everybody to sign up. So we'd had some Sundays where literally everybody that came into church, I was like, are you signed up on Church Street? Do you know how to use it? So we were making massive efforts before COVID happened. COVID then happened, and that just accelerated that process that was already in place. But it came out the back of us going, we've got to get this working for everybody, and showing them how it could be used. Church Suite doesn't replace WhatsApp, okay? It's never going to replace WhatsApp. There are certain functions within WhatsApp that make things very easy. But if you're relying on WhatsApp to communicate to the whole church when you've got 100 people or more, is that WhatsApp is going to struggle because you just end up with so many contacts and so many. From a UK point of view, it is not GDPR compliant to use WhatsApp as your database. So you can't do that. You've got to shift it onto something else. and Church Week covers that. Now, all of our groups are like the worship team, the stewards team, the children's workers, obviously we as Go Church, we all have our own WhatsApp group, so we speed communication for a certain thing. But I think in terms of how you use Church Week for communication, this probably applies for Planning Centre. I don't know, because I've not used that one, but similar things is you've got to find how it works best for you, and for your communication is finding the right channel to communicate the right piece of information. There isn't one channel that hits everybody communication wise that works all the time. So if you think about it, just to give you a little bit of an analogy, obviously I'm going back 15 years now nearly, but when I was working in the retail stores have television adverts back in those days. They have social media adverts. They have, you used to go in and you used to get a printed magazine. You used to have, you'd have flyers on the counter, the till bits. You'd have posters in the window. You'd have posters on the bus stops. There are multi-streams that they are hitting you with, the billboards, that they're hitting you with every single area to get the one piece of information across. So I still know, obviously I work there, but they haven't changed what O2's strapline is for the last 15 years. It's we're better connected. Still comes up. And I know what's going to happen because it happens every time. You can go to Nike's Just Do It, because they always hit you with the same thing all the time, but they're hitting you in multiple different things. So now it's an app, it's a this and that. So, but there are certain tools that they use. So I think it was Pastor Matt was saying earlier about the use of emails in Beirut and stuff like that, and working out the best way to do things and using social media. I think, and this is my personal opinion, but I think there are some communication streams that work best for different people and different groups. But if you only use one, you eliminate the others.
That's cool.
And so the whole thing is we need to hit everyone. Now they all require a little bit of effort, a little bit of thought, but we have to hit all of them in order to reach everybody.
Exactly.
So over the last couple of years, we've used Church Week for a number of different things. I'm going to run through a few of them now, but communication is the biggest one that we've used and we use it in several different several different purposes and to reach different types of people in different ways. So we have a weekly information email. So on a Friday, and as of this year, Pastors Alan and Claire and myself rotate it. So we each take 1 week. So over a 3-week period, we alternate it, which is great when it's the 2 weeks when I haven't got to write it. And then it's then the third week comes around like this week, and I'm like, last night, 8 o'clock, I've got to get this email written so that I don't have to do it tomorrow.
And I received it first thing this morning.
So that's the beautiful thing. I wrote it yesterday, got it up on Church Week, scheduled it. I don't have to think about it. 9 o'clock this morning, it went out, done. And it's a job off my list. So the weekly info email, we use that to try and help keep the church up to date with information about what's coming up, what's going on, a key theme for the month or the week. It's a purely comms email. It supports what's then put in the Sunday video notices. It supports verbal stuff. It supports what's going on in events in Church Week and other things, but it just highlights something that's going on. It also gives an avenue for, like, was it last week's one where Pastor Claire put in about the Ukraine and how we could pray for it? We can respond accordingly to world events or stuff and have something. So that's one thing we do.
And about 60 to 70% of the church are reading.
Yeah, it's difficult to get accurate stats on how many people actually read it because of how some of the automated systems work in the background. But over time, and I think that's the key thing to say, over time, people do generally end up reading it, and more are reading it, the more we kind of talk about. So we'll mention it on a Sunday in the sermon and go, oh, this was in your weekly email. So we're kind of just planting that seed all the time that there is an email, you should be reading it. The amount of times we've said to people, if you're not getting the email or you're not on Church Week, come and see us, we'll get you sorted. so that again we're driving that message of you need to use this, it's important, and we'll help you get it in place. And I'll be completely honest, we've got people in the church who are in the older generations, and they have embraced it as much as anybody else.
That's good.
So it is not about young, old, it's about whether you give people the support they need to help them to know how to use it. So I regularly get one of our slightly older ladies comes up to me pretty much every other week in church going, I've got another tech problem. And then we sort it out. And away she goes. She's happy. But you know what? She's in a grow group. She's on Zoom. She's reading her weekly emails. In fact, there's a group of the older people that then tell us when the mistakes are in the emails. Which
Which is great, because then you know that they're reading it.
At least you know they're
actually.
reading it, yeah.
You should put a mistake on purpose and say, whoever sees this, let me know.
A little asterisk at the bottom.
So the weekly email works really well. We then have a fortnightly finance email, and we split that in two ways. So one of the things that we found was important in removing having a big offering time in the service, you then got to fill the information void that people were potentially getting. Also, you want people to be able to feel like they're part of the journey, be able to join up with their faith, and also give when they feel led to, and know the needs. So COVID was great because we've switched pretty much everybody gives online, which has meant that from a service point of view, we've got one less thing we have to do on a Sunday morning. Brilliant, which is what we wanted to achieve. But then you've got to fill that gap with how they know what's going on with the church, the finances. So the fortnightly email goes out. So of the two a month, one a month is sent to everybody in the church. And that one is a general email that keeps everybody in the loop, and gives them the information and lets them know the results of the previous month, so how we did. Then a fortnight later, we send another email out, but that just goes to our core and committed. So this is where Church Suite helps us, because we've got the 5 C's defined on Church Suite. So we can just go, we're going to hit core, we're going to hit the committed, send to those, and they get more information about how it's going in the month to date, what we need to stand for, stand with to believe in faith. But we already know these guys are on board because they're part of the core and the committed. So we're tailoring the emails to what's needed. So you've got those two main emails. Yeah, a new visitor would never get that, which means we're not putting people off, or seen as the church that just asks for money, to somebody who's new to the church. And that's quite key, because we actually had feedback from a number of different people. But one of the people that came to church, one of my friends that came to church, now they're part of another church, so it wasn't a big deal in terms of their long-term eternity situation. But they turned around and went, all your church wants is money and my data. And that was like, okay. It was quite, and it was partly because of how they'd been handled that morning, which was slightly unusual from what we normally do. But it was a bit of a like, okay, we've got to be careful how we handle people coming in the doors, because if that's an impression of somebody who's used to church, what about somebody who doesn't know church? How do we handle that? So it was quite key that we looked at that. So the other big area that we use, the email side of things sends out rotas will all go out to the teams via email. So they will get, if you're on a team, you're rotated in, you will get a reminder both at the beginning of the time when the rota is published, it will send out the rota, and then it will also, if it's set up, give you a weekly reminder. So I was reminded on Tuesday this week that I'm leading worship on Sunday, which I already knew, but it's it's good
System is working.
if you've forgotten.
I was
It's quite
reminded that I'm here speaking.
yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it works really well.
That's the point. It automatically
It's an automated thing. Nobody did that. It just, because it's in the rota, it's done. The other big area that we use Church Suite for is sending out text messages. So we've got a number of different ways we use text messages. One is for urgent, immediate information. Statistically, more people, I can't remember what the stats are, it's a very high figure, more people in the UK definitely will read a text than they will an email or any other
Text
piece of
mobile.
information. So yes. So something like 98% of people will read the text messages they get sent from Church Suite. So if you need to hit people straight away, it's like Google Box, isn't it? With, they're just watching us on the telly. Gogglebox, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, so we have text messages that go out, and they're urgent things. So the Ukraine prayer event that happened last night, text message got sent out yesterday afternoon, so everybody in church knows about it immediately.
About 12 people showed up, which was amazing. 12? Yeah. Great.
And some extra people turned up, so that was good. And then we have at the moment, because of how we've had to do events since we come back from COVID, we've sent out reminders for regular bookings in on a Wednesday and an invite for the live stream on a Saturday, so that people can forward that to their friends and family, etc., and they've got the links. So that's how we use text. You can also use text, and we are looking into how we use this better for first-time guests. So when they come, they would get a text message saying, "Hey, it was great to see you," whatever.
You know what I got when I went to visit a church? I got a coupon for Starbucks. I definitely wanted to be a visitor so that I could get the coupon for Starbucks. I thought that was neat. They offered you something
Yeah.
that you could use, that you didn't have to go to the back to get a cup or something, you know, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. So comms wise, we're using emails, Church Suite for emails and text as our main thing. Just rapidly going through some other things that we've managed to get Church Suite to work well for us. All our grow groups, so groups are on there. This enables people to sign up to the groups. It gives us an opportunity to record and log attendance, which helps with tracking the pastoral concerns. So I can go in and see very quickly, well, somebody was with us for 4 weeks and then they've not been for the last 3. I need to know what's going on with that person. And then also Church Suite enables us to have each of the group leaders can give a report on what they did in their groups, how it went, or if there are any pastoral concerns, stuff like that. Rotas I've already mentioned, but also the other thing with rotas, if everybody's using rotas, it flags up if there's a clash. So you can't then schedule too many people. Like somebody can't be doing 5 jobs, which is useful. Events, I mean, obviously returning from lockdown, that was a massive thing for us. And it's helped us to set up and organize bookings, events. Tomorrow's is a prime example of how I know already that we're nearly in the 40s, coming up to 50. I haven't looked at it today, but people booked in for tomorrow. I know who they are. And so I can see who's booked in. When they turn up, somebody will check them in. There's all this process going on, all enabled by Church Suite. During the lockdown return, and we're about to probably turn this off now because we won't need it any longer. But when you could only have restricted numbers and you had to track them, Church Suite gave us the opportunity to log it. So everyone's booked in, we know what's going on. Attendance, we log numbers each week and it's recorded in one place. And we also use that to log how many people view the online service, the online version. So on a Tuesday, now it used to be a Monday, but Tuesday I go in, Facebook, YouTube, I take the data and just enter it into Church Suite and it's done. Awesome. And then the final one, which we're just rolling out, and this is a really, really great way to use Church Suite, family care notes. So with our family care system, we are trying to create like the way how hospitals have patient notes. So the NHS have patient notes of, so if I go to the doctors or the hospital, the NHS in the UK knows what I've had, who I've seen, comments in it. I mean, I don't know what's written about it, but the doctor can see previous visits. So whenever one of our family care team has a significant or meaningful interaction with somebody pastorally, they will then, or they should do, is what we're rolling out at the moment, go in and log a note on that person on Church Suite but it is locked down because of the way Church Street's set up. It is locked down so only the family care team members can view it. And I, or Pastor Alan and Claire, determine who's on that family care list. So if somebody leaves our church and somebody else takes their place, we just shift the name up. They've then got access to all of it, but the previous person can't see anything. And it always means that we know what's going on. So when that's properly embedded, it will be a massive benefit. I mean, it's getting there, but it's still a work in progress, isn't it?
It's great for us now that we have the new family care team, because certain people that we know are regulars that we're monitoring, like Brenda, for example, we can just go in and see who saw her last, who had the last phone call, what is happening before we go and visit or something.
That's awesome.
It's brilliant.
Does Planning Center have anything like that, Matt?
They do, but I don't know how it works yet.
Oh,
I
okay.
tested it and then I couldn't find it.
Okay. There's a note somewhere. Someone can read it.
Yeah. Or there's a note about me in the system. 10 years from now, someone will find it.
But the notes can be used in lots of other ways
Yeah, sure.
as well.
Yeah.
What about steps to growth? Do you have like the 5 C's? Do you have anything that tracks that yet in Church Suite, or could you use that as one of the ways?
You can set up what's called flows within Church Street. So you can for example, the one that works best that we've had for the longest time is like new people. So if somebody comes into church, gets logged, and we're back on using a device now, so it goes straight into the system. So on the Sunday, their details get logged. That automatically then generates certain activities that should happen. So it might automatically send a text message out, or it might do this, or it might do that. And the person who's overseeing the flow can go in and see where somebody's at on the flow, and then they can, do something, or, close it down and move the person on, or what. So you can actually track somebody that way. In terms of like having a massive growth plan from, say, alpha, in the
Like
what's
the ABCs,
crowd.
if we had.
Yeah, you probably can do. Well, you could do that. Yes, you can do that.
Actually, the section you could tick. So when we did the leaders agreement, we put that in, so we can see who's got a leaders agreement, who has.
Oh.
So there are ways to track all of these things. But don't forget, we've got the 5C set up.
Yeah, we've got the 5C set up automatically as smart tags. So basically, as soon as somebody, at the moment, for example, if you are giving, but you're not in a grow group and you're not in serving in a team, then you'll automatically go into the congregation. But if you were to then suddenly add in that you started going to a grow group, you'd automatically shift into the core. Committed. Sorry.
Is that attendance of grow group or signed up to a grow group?
That's signed up to a grow group. Yeah, there are limitations to how well that can, what that can mean. And that's in a way where you then have to go back to your grow group stats and go, well, who is actually regularly attending? Because the biggest area we had this room was less so with grow groups, more with teams, because somebody's on a team, but actually when COVID hit, nobody was serving in any team or very few teams. And then when they came back, some people were still on historic things. And so they were showing up as like being massively involved in the church, and we hadn't seen them for 2 years. So, there's a little bit of having to work through some of those parts. But the actual principle is pretty good. And you can bring up very quickly, like we could go in and see who's in our core, and then you can look at it and go, well, actually, do those look right? Yes, no. You can actually just look at it. And even with the numbers we're talking about of 250 people, you can very quickly see out the 30 people in the core, well, that looks about right, or the 60 people in the committed. You're not got to go through hundreds and hundreds, 60. You can quickly scan through and go there. They look right.
And the other thing I would really put in is right now you might be doing rotas in WhatsApp. If you have a WhatsApp group that's more than 12, 15 people, and they start putting messages and stuff in, your phone starts going like crazy. People switch it off, and it stops us being useful. So our family prayer WhatsApp group, we've had to be really clear with people. You don't put comments other than a prayer emoji. You're not putting teaching. You're not putting teaching and this is for the urgent pray now stuff. So we've had to kind of really sort of train and understanding. If you've got a rota and 20, 30 people, you're not going to be able to just do it. Keeping on going on WhatsApp. You have to kind of recognize the limitations for them. So while you're small, you can.
Use church.
And you guys use it more, don't you?
We use church suite.
Liverpool
We
use
always
church
have.
suite.
So.
Yeah.
But we still do post the rota on the group. Most people look at it on our group, and we'll refer back to it.
I mean,
so.
for example, and she doesn't need to do this, and potentially I realise it might be down to a lack of understanding of what the system does, but Tarasai posts the steward's rota every single week for who's on that week. She takes a screenshot of Church Street and puts it on the WhatsApp. I'm kind of like thinking, does she realise that it will be auto emailing all those people? And she may not, but she's a brilliant leader. So actually, is she over communicating? In which case, I'm like, well, that's cool. I don't mind that. She is not from where we used to be 2.5 years ago, where the stewards were like, some of them turned up, some didn't, some, she doesn't have that issue. So if it's working, I'm kind of like, I'm not going to bother saying anything to her. But, the fact is she has to have it in Church Suite, because the other thing that we're about to start exploring, which I haven't really spent any time doing, is so earlier this week, I sent out the order of service for Sunday, but actually you can use Church Suite to do that, and it goes to everybody in there, and you can tailor it to what you want. A planning centre does this kind of thing anyway, but so it's not something we've ever used before, but it is something we're going to start trying to use. Have you?
Yeah.
Might pick your brains.
One
Yeah.
of their new things they've got is it's called Forms. We want to use it to make it an easy place for people to sign up for serving. That's the one thing Church Week hasn't had until now. So, but what we've decided to do is pilot it for partnership. So when somebody new comes to church and they get the first email, in there is a link. If you want to sign up for partnership, even if you don't know what the date is, what set the next one, they go onto the form. So that has worked really, really well. And they were given two options of a Sunday night or a Monday night. Everybody chose the Sunday night. So we're scrapping doing partnership on Monday night. It's a Sunday night. But it's great. So as soon as somebody new walks in, they get this welcome letter and tells them about partnership, and then they can sign up.
Or we mention about baptism service from the front, we just say, don't forget to sign up for Church Street. And it lets us know that there's 4 people to be baptized without me doing loads of extra hands up, over back, this person, whatever. So
Do you repost that in social media?
what?
Those links to sign up?
That's the
Can you?
area that we're not very good. See, there's things we're good at, there's things we're not so good at.
It's,
Or we haven't worked
But
out.
do they have to, like the registration, at first you had to log into Go Church Manchester, and then you realize, wait, you wanted to make it open. So you could do that for baptism.
Yeah.
And anybody that wanted to be baptized that had been attending the church, even if they hadn't downloaded Church Suite, could link on that. I think that would, like, using that on a regular basis would be really powerful.
Yeah, because so one of the things that we've learned through using Church Suite is that it's really designed to be used for people who are connecting with the church.
Yeah.
So if you fill it with a whole load of like community fund day people, your numbers are really skewed.
Yeah.
And they're not people who are connected. So we've made it, during lockdown, we made Church Suite available to anybody who came, just because we weren't meeting. Now we've gone back to, if you're a new person, don't automatically get access to Church Suite. You need to know that they're connected first. But the forms is really useful because they can sign up to those without being.
I don't know how I feel about that because, no, I'm not in it, so you have to help me understand what you mean by that. So if you have the 5 Cs and one is community, and if they're tagged community, because
There's no tag for community. That's the problem. You can only start at crowd. That's why
okay,
it-
that makes sense then, I guess.
Something you guys-
So crowd is defined as what?
It's how Church Suite is.
So
It's somebody's had contact with you, right?
So crowd is anybody who's actually had any contact with us at all, isn't it?
Yeah, so that makes sense. So they've been to church or there's
Yeah.
some kind of function, they've been to like a community fund day. And so why would you not have, like, if you just did a report, can you not do a report, everything minus crowd? Because you said it
Yeah.
skewed your statistics. And like one of the
Community fund day,
yeah,
and we took all their information.
yeah,
We put them all in the system.
Yeah.
And we tagged them as fund day.
yeah,
And we were communicating to them
Uh-huh.
from time to time. But nobody was engaging with them.
yeah.
And this is where Church Suite is designed for people who are engaging. So when somebody stops engaging with you,
Uh-huh.
you archive them. Their details, you still have their details. It's
Right.
like you put them in a filing cabinet.
Yeah, I get
So
that.
if they come back to church, you can bring them back in.
So what I'm saying is I think that there's by taking the approach you're taking of not trying to actively get that information from the crowd or the community and put it in the system, the fact that they're
They
not
are
in,
in- So the new person comes to church,
yeah,
we capture their information.
Yeah.
Immediately, they get a welcome email.
yeah,
They then go into the flow.
Yeah.
At which point they then get a text later on or a phone call.
Yeah.
And there's a connection there. When they come back the second time, which hopefully is the following week, we immediately go, okay, these people are connected.
Yeah.
Do they want to join a group? Do they want to, at that point, we give them access to the whole of Church Suite?
right. I understand that principle. My question is because you said like you had 300 or some people, you didn't say that, but I know it's about 300 some people that came to Community Fund Day, and you are saying that you're not wanting, if I'm understanding right, you're not wanting to keep them in your system. I know they're archived, but the way I like, well, let me finish my question, and maybe my question will be more accurate. That I think I like the idea of having the biggest possible database of connections. But then being able to, because your comment was, is it skewed the numbers. So if you want to report on who's engaged, you just report on those people that you consider engaged. So whether you consider crowd or not, you just take them out if you can do that. And then you've got your, you're committed and your congregation and core. So, but like every single time I did a community fund day or a Christmas outreach or an Easter outreach, those things that are targeted, I would be still sending them, even if I never heard from them again. Until they asked, please don't send me anything. I would just keep doing it.
So I'm the one that has been like, for goodness sake, this has got to work better. And one of the nice things in separating out the churches, because the problems was often we were sending a letter to Manchester and it was getting Bradford and Liverpool's people. We're doing this wrong. But in doing that, we're creating a congregation called Community Fund Day. all those contacts, they're not they've not actually come to church, they've come to an event. But all those contacts are going to be in there, and we can send once a quarter, once whatever,
Okay.
an email or specific.
Yeah.
They're not getting every week
Yeah,
a text, an email, or whatever that is going to all the church. And for me, that was the thing. I'm looking at. I got this 300 something people, but actually, not even 200 were genuinely connecting, and actually discovered that this Farsi person that came once 4 years ago is still. We're still trying to send texts and emails, and there's just nothing happening there. At what point do you actually go, that's dead data, and we shouldn't keep it? We shouldn't.
That makes sense. So
And
you're
common
capturing
sense.
that data and you're keeping it in a place where you can send stuff to it. You're just separating it out
Yes.
from your other data,
Yes.
and it's all within your
And the
church
problem
suite
was
system.
it was all in the one pot. And that was creating the problem, whereas by creating, so for example, we have now, or we're creating one pot called newsletter. People who have left us, but want to, or something like that, whatever, maybe this, that want to stay connected, but they're not in the church.
When you say pots and
Congregations.
They're sites. They're called sites
Sites.
on church.
oh, so like Liverpool's a site.
Yeah, Liverpool
Yes.
used to be a site.
Used to be a site.
Now, if you go into
now it's
Manchester,
set.
you're separate. You've got your own account.
Yeah, okay.
But because you've got your own account, we now only have Manchester as one site. So we are now rethinking how we were talking about doing an online site and a mailing list, a CAP client,
Because-
so that basically we can kind of, portion people out in the right
Yeah.
way.
That
and
totally
make-
makes
to
And you
make it a
can
lot
move
easier.
people with the click of a button,
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
you?
yeah.
So,
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So
And also you can do more with that information then. You can measure what happens within that group of
yes.
Yes.
people much better. That's that's good.
And part of the thinking around this as well is how do we start to look after, pastor, manage the online people who aren't anywhere close to Manchester, who call Manchester their home, but who call Go Church Manchester their home church, but actually, like we have a lady who's up in near, Whitehaven, way up away, came and got baptized here, but isn't going to come. She may come once a year, perhaps, I don't know. But really, she sees this as her home church. But how do we look after people like her, and how do we begin to grow it, the online side of things within that context? So there's quite a bit of trying to think how we can use Church Street to aid that, rather than it being the sort of a conflict between different things.
I think that's brilliant. That makes total sense to me. Yeah.
And in the other area, everyone's giving is on Church Street. So they can look into their own records when it comes to the tax returns and stuff. But we can also see that they're not giving.
Yeah.
Which
So
actually, so for one of the things that so certain people are currently disqualified from leadership, senior leadership, and core leadership, because they don't tie, they don't do it regularly.
Yeah.
And it was one of those areas that actually Abraham and one or two others, we know for the last 3 years they have not been giving. They've disqualified themselves from actually being in leadership.
Yeah.
Their hearts are not in the house. All they're actually doing is their own ministry. It's an independence thing. Actually, you're seeing the heart.
yeah, that's for sure. Matt, can we text through Planning Center? Or I know most people WhatsApp, but can we text?
Not in Lebanon, but it does have a API, which I don't know what API stands for, but I know it's a way to connect two pieces of software. It has an open API, so if we find a computer programmer, we can get Planning Center to send WhatsApp messages.
So as an example, we could find a text app or some kind of text software, and we could pretty much link the two together, so it could send, or maybe even WhatsApp, maybe not WhatsApp, but text we could.
That's what he said, WhatsApp. You can connect it to WhatsApp.
You said
Yeah,
WhatsApp?
so I'm specifically looking for a WhatsApp solution, but both would be true.
Okay, awesome.
Which church we did WhatsApp?
Can
Well,
I-
the other bit of communication is, I said earlier, is if you have sent out a birthday
That's nice.
celebration to people, and people respond quite nicely to that, actually. They go, oh, thank you.
We
I
set
think
up a preset, but you still have to set it to go. It doesn't automatically do it. But we get we send it directly to our inbox from Manchester,
Also,
and we get people reply, thanking us,
that's nice.
ask if people ask us for prayer, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's a really good tool.
I don't know if you guys heard that or not, but they are able to send a birthday message and send it like it's coming from their email inbox, right? Yeah, so it looks like it's
Yeah,
personal.
you can set Church Street up to send emails. And to be honest, I'm bad at this because I always forget to change it on the weekly email. But you can send it from yourself, from Go Church, from the admin account. You can send it from when you set the email. You can decide where it's coming from. So it's very well thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you've got the kids groups, which legally you have to keep that record. You have to keep a record forever. It's not a 5-year, 10-year. But you have to log in 20 years' time those people into my children's groups.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It's a never, that is a permanent record requirement.
Actually, Becky, you're right, I'm going to say. So, because we now have Church Suite for a certain number of years, whenever somebody wants to go to one of the Christian high schools, either Cannon Slade or to Trinity,
You can track.
we get forms that we have to fill in.
Yeah.
Cannon Slade, want to know exactly how many times a child has done.
I remember that.
Now, I just open Church Suite, boom, I've got the information. I don't have to go back to all the registers.
Yeah.
And
That's a
this
great way
week-
to sell people being engaged with Church Suite.
Yeah.
I had a
Kidding,
I had a
Candace.
contractor offer me to do the building work here for free if I would sign him a letter to Cannon Slate.
Wow.
And I was tempted for a few minutes.
We
Not
found
really.
the Liverpool version of Cannon Slade now, and I'm getting all the references.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's good because that school will start to log your church, they'll start to mention, because they do
It's where we
mention
want to send our kids.
It's something I would put in the partnership class. And when you talk, I imagine in the course you talk about Church Suite, right? In partnership.
No.
We must do.
Yes, yeah, of course we do. We talk to them right at the start. about
Because I would imagine one of the goals of the partnership course would get making sure everybody was properly logged in like,
It's not in the teaching notes, but we talk about it. all the time.
but if I was like, I'd be like, and one of the benefits is that years from now, when you may want us to be able to represent how many you want to go to some posh school, well,
We can matchmake you with all the other single people.
Yeah.
When you've got kids.
Got a
we
single
can-
tag. You know-
We can find you
We,
one.
we've got it sorted.
Either kidney.
We've got a
It's
donut
not that
list.
far.
But the nice thing about it is getting people to sign up. Hey, get your phone out, go to grow groups. It's time to sign up. The new things are up. Talking about it, people can do it right there, right then.
yeah, I love
They
it.
can see the list. They can see who's leading it, what
Yeah.
night it's on,
Yep.
and what it's going to be about.
And the next stage to that is the interaction with the website and Church Suite.
And
that-
social media.
So that it can pull it through.
Mm.
So that the list can then go out and we can get more people signing up. And that will then utilize forms that Claire was talking about to do with people who want to sign up who maybe not part of Church Suite. We can get them linked in. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be using it for more and more and more
Mhm.
over the next 12 months that will just increase its capability for us.
And that's where you could use on a Sunday morning a QR code that goes
Yes.
to a link tree.
That's
So if
what I was
someone's not
really thinking about
on not in Church Suite, you can put the QR code on the screen, they can pick their phone up, take them straight to the link that says sign up for this group, this group, this group, this group, and they've got, or here's the link for it. So they're not sitting
I
there trying
really
to type
like
in a
that.
web address. They can just scan the screen.
Yeah.
So it takes away that.
Take that, COVID.
Next broker, next set of brokers.
With the flows, can you get it to, so say like, I don't know, someone's doing partnership on a one-to-one basis, getting a grip on a one-to-one basis in our church, and they're part of a flow. But the next step is that say I need to do something like send a phone call. Will the flow email me to tell me
Yeah.
the
If-
next
if
job?
you've set it up like that, yeah.
Okay, because I've never got that to work before.
So like shape profile, it's set up to go to certain number of different people, and so you tick the right thing, and then if they get a reminder email sent, have you done the shape profile yet? And they'll get it every Monday. They'll get it every Monday until they have done it. So it's really good with those kinds of things.
So I've got a really annoying one at the moment. One of our Farsi group new members, it keeps saying, you haven't sent the welcome letter. The welcome letter's waiting to be edited. Now, he doesn't know that. And we've been friendly, we've been in Farsi, which is why we can't do it. But every month.
Can you save a different language
telling me-
letter in it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But I don't know how. When I'm going to have an interesting time.
So where's your flow?
PDF, that might be hard.
Okay, yeah, PDF, that makes sense, yeah. Okay.
But it is reminding me every Monday that I'm getting really annoyed about it. But it's actually going to me, I'm going, I need, I've got to actually, where's this blinking letter that I'm supposed to have got sorted out? It's getting me annoyed because it's sending me a reminder that something's not been dealt with. So it's kind of good.
No, we did before with the old one, and I couldn't get it to do what I needed it to do, so I didn't.
I think the new systems, the new updates have made things a lot bit easier with some of these flows. But we're also learning how to use the flows better.
Becky, I can show you that.
I think Mark might be doing it now.
Can I log something as a discussion question, and kind of, I think it probably an important idea for some of our conversations, especially after this weekend. And that is your thought, your thing about, what do you call the different groups underneath Manchester? Not, you call them the, starts with S. Sites. The site.
Yeah.
So let's say you're developing an online site. So we could say Manchester is capturing those, and you know, like we try to capture all the online stuff in one place. Then we start talking about the idea of and it could be in addition to whatever else you're doing. But my thought is this: is we start working towards a corporate unified online campus that we actually look to plant with online pastors. And the reason I'm thinking this through is someone like a Rob and a Julia, they might not be in a position to, and I'm using them as an example, they probably wouldn't be interested in this, but just as an example, they could actually function as online pastors from anywhere, and they go back and forth between the US and the UK a lot. And so you could like have someone like that schedule wasn't like, they're not based in Liverpool, or based in Manchester, or based wherever. They can be based anywhere, and they could be the pioneer, the pastors of that group. And then we work together to work through the workflows of what does it mean to do, you know, like, so you might have Matt Haddenbaugh has done Getting a Grip on the Basics, is filmed or something like that. So that's made available to them. Someone, you know, I don't know what else, whatever the other things, a partnership, for example, maybe you have the UK version of partnership there. and you've got different ones that film different sections of it or something like that. So there's a way to everything that you would do in church, you do that way, with the idea that maybe the main way that they connect is through the online church, but it could be a great feeder to, we've got like half a dozen people in this city that are attending. Maybe we should look to plant an actual church in that city. Or it's a person that, you know, has this agoraphobia or something like that, and they get to the point where they're like, now I'm ready to get out into real world and to attend a congregation, and there's like, you know, few to choose from, and then they get locked in. So maybe they move from that site to that site, kind of a thing.
Definitely. The other thing that partly this links to what you're just saying, but is also is a thing that we brought up before around like having that online library of resources. So whether it's like you're saying, getting a grip on the basics, but it could be the partnership course that we've talked about in the UK. It could be, you know, somebody's got a teaching series on whatever, leadership training. All those stuff somewhere needs to go somewhere. But the thing is that Church Suite, and we could have this set up on the Bradford one, the Manchester one, and the Liverpool one, because that's fairly easy to sort out. On Manchester's site, it should be, it's not quite set up correctly, but it should be that if you're on Manchester's site and you are with a particular tag on your My Church Suite, so your personal Church Suite, I can click, it brings up worship team, and I click on that and it takes me to, it's a link to a site where I can get all of the worship team resources.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that's kind of what another thing that could be utilized. We could be utilizing Church Suite to go, here's leadership training, or it could be whatever, and then click it, whatever it may be. So you click on that link, and then it just takes you to wherever it's held, and you watch it, you do it, and you know, it's sort of a step towards what Fiona often talks about with the whole like learning management systems and how you do all that. And even if you look at Raymer in the UK, what we do is we get sent on the Class 365, which you could say is Church Suite, because there's a lot of similarities. You click on the module you've got to do, and that takes you, that gives you a link to then go to where you've got to do the studying, because the studying isn't held in Class 365. So, but what it does do is it records what you've done. So that part, I don't know how we'd ever be able to use Church Suite for. In some ways, it's kind of beginning to move all these bits together so that we're not ending up giving our church people hundreds and hundreds of systems. They have the one system, and then we manipulate that to give us what we need for everything else. Then we've got to have the resources there as well.
On Church Suite, you can go to podcasts, my podcasts.
Yes.
You can go to reading plan.
Yeah.
From within Church Suite.
Yeah, that's good.
So you don't actually have to give them places. It's in Church Suite.
Yeah, Fiona at the moment. So we've got a guy in the church, Peter, who works as the training for Amazon here in Manchester.
Wow.
And Fiona's got the possibility of actually finding with us for free an online platform. So she's looking at that at the moment
And loving it.
And loving it, yeah.
But there is potential, because some of these platforms are really expensive.
Yeah.
Most really expensive.
But she said this one, there's a possibility of it being free. So
Okay.
we went.
Guess it's a little off topic, but I just want to register that as a question to, you know, look at the technology side, but then also the how we might be able to use the online presence in a more determined specific way.
I think that big, what you said right at the start is that quality decision, we are going to use it, then how? What's it useful for? I've had to
Maximize.
just to do.
Maximize the usefulness of it. Yeah.
But there's little bits in that to give an example, so everything at the moment depends on Pastor Allen filling the service lead and service minister rota, because Julian can't do his rotas until he knows when I'm potentially available. Now, I barely do anything with the worship team nowadays, but he can't fill in when I'm available, not available, until that one's been done. Charity can't do the production team upstairs until Julian's done worship team, because she may be on worship team, so she doesn't know when. So it's all dependent on this one. So if you're not all going, we're using Church Suite, it has multiple knock-ons, but actually when you all go into it, it makes life so much easier, because everybody just goes, oh, this is what we're doing. And I can pull up, in theory, I can pull up tomorrow's rota, tomorrow's Sunday, and I know who's on every single team just on one button, which is great.
Or Pete or someone says, I'm away on holiday.
They can book their own.
Two hours.
I used to do the children's ministry rotas the whole term ahead, so that everyone else got the clashes and not me. So I got first pick.
Yeah, and that was really annoying for us in the worship team when that happened, wasn't it? That's what it is.
This transition from lessons.
If you have a flow, and then you go
Yeah, we're supposed to kind of be. You guys want to go? Just you guys.
Edit is a different stage. That's when you have to put it in a stage. You can decide who it's going to.
Okay, I'm gonna need to,
I can.
if you need to take a break for a second, go ahead and do that. I have to log in to Zoom to be able to share the screen.
Can I just ask who, because I think we have to make the coffee and everything separately. Who would like coffee?
Have you tried to join?
Oh, it's mute now,
Not yet.
sorry.
It's the original one that I sent out yesterday.
Okay.
WhatsApp. I've just kept reusing the same one.
That was.
You found it?
There it is.
Tracy wants this because we've got to put it all with all the different bits of money. So I think we need to find out from Tracy where she wants it. It's going to be given to them, but all of the different amounts need to be added up and handed over. But I have no message. There's no email. I've checked the spam as well. So there's no WhatsApp, there's no text. Huh?
It's not fair.
Yeah,
You
like
can't
lemon
hide that.
juice.
Oh.
Yeah.
I took notes.
Actually, yeah, no.
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me? From Lebanon. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Heard.
So I have my camera and microphone off and I'm giving a thumbs up to my laptop.
So you can hear me, no problem.
Just very one-sided.
Just wanted to make sure. I think to record this, I had to record it off his computer, I think. It's going to be recorded. I'll ask him when he comes through. Okay, cool. So let me ask you something. You're not going to be able to, there'll be no sound with this. But can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not as funny if you can't hear it, but it's hilarious. You guys doing okay with this? I know it's a long day and you guys just got back and you got a lot of stuff probably that you'd like to be doing.
I mean, to full disclosure, we're starting to feel it now.
Yeah.
I wish your session was first.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll be better. It'll be better this time. I think I've had a lot of challenges in really being able to hear everything that was said. So there were a few times I was struggling, but I've been able to hear you very well because you've been close to the computer.
Yeah. We need to figure out something. Do you think we just need to stream for tomorrow? Or what do you think?
I mean, the stream works better and it's, less of a challenge for you guys. Plus you're going to have the PA, which you need.
Taco, you can't be in the Zoom call.
Sorry, buddy.
Come over here. Sit down. Good job.
So Becky's offering you a
Cup of tea? Ah, thank you. I would love a cup of tea. Is it a cup or a spot? What do they say? We have coffee.
It's a mug of tea. That's a mug.
But you never say, would you like a mug of tea? You say, would you like a cup of tea?
Or they just say cuppa.
Cuppa. Do you want a brew?
Brew.
Do you want a brew?
Have a brew.
I've never done the cup or the tea with milk in it, and so. Yeah, I've never put.
Get on a plane.
I have tea with no milk as well. Why ruin the taste of tea by putting milk in?
It's not
We-
proper to not
Indeed,
have.
right now, we could be there in 7 hours.
Come.
Might be a bit
It's more
cold.
fast than that, just come.
It'll be fresh for the morning, though.
Did you see it snowing in Tulsa?
No,
Is it really?
that's crazy.
It is.
Like
It's snowing again.
3 inches
3
today.
inches, yeah.
Wow. That is bonkers. I can't believe that it changed so much. And then we had those really cold days, and then suddenly it was warm again.
Yeah, very warm.
So,
Bonkers.
yeah, it needs to make up its mind. Is it that you can't use church suite in Beirut?
Yeah. You've talked to Mark a lot about this.
No, the deciding factor was the apps can't be accessed from Play Store or iOS in Lebanon.
Right.
And that was initially the case with Planning Center. Planning Center changed and developed support or opened it up, I think probably because of COVID, or I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's speculation.
Since we're kind of all here and we're waiting, one of the things that I've been thinking about is like a discussion time about what we're going to do for the rest of the year now that we have everybody in person. And I wanted to ask you guys, the last weekend in November, is that something that you could be here for, Matt and Julie?
Matt and Julie Hadabah, yes, I think last week in November.
Yeah.
We, by the way, are not planning to go to the US in December.
No, we're considering maybe making that like the kids' Christmas present and letting the kids go. But we just don't see that it's a benefit to us or moving forward here to go back at Christmas. The last week in November.
It's the Thanksgiving weekend, the weekend after Thanksgiving.
No, it is the Thanksgiving weekend, 25th through the 30th. So it'd be 25th, 26th, 27th
Can I bring my smoker?
of November. Yeah, your smoker is pretty good. So
You smoke?
smokes the meat.
Meat.
Smoke.
If I can get it lit.
Gets the flavor of smoke.
All
Everything.
Christians smoke in Lebanon. Didn't you know that?
I didn't know that. As long as it's not hallucinogenic, it's all good.
Hey, yeah,
That's funny.
we need to cruise because we're way behind schedule.
You're so good at helping us to.
Crack the
order
whip.
on. You're
Let's go.
Get this baby done.
Yes, let's go.
Matt, speaking of travel, just so you know, and I don't forget to tell you, Roy and Melissa are definite for August.
fantastic.
What's that Jesus said?
Anybody here want to travel to Turkey in August?
I would love to, but my parents' 60th wedding anniversary. So we have been commanded.
I
Commander is the
would,
word.
but I have the care of 2 small children and they're not going to Turkey in
No.
August.
There are balloons.
You can send the balloons to Liverpool.
That's a thing.
Spoken like a teenager's father.
Yeah.
Balloons.
Awesome. Shall we start?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Okay, so I've adapted this from a session that we did with the Rhema Bible Training College directors in 2018. And this, you have to use you'll have the visual, but you have to use the audio imaginations to be able to really truly appreciate this. The sound is and that just keeps continuing in a very irritating way for the whole video, which is like 60 seconds.
Okay.
Irritated.
So it's working. Continue.
I'm not gonna record that. For the sake of all of our future listeners.
It's recorded on the YouTube channel.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Everything we're doing today has been recorded.
Oh no.
It's private though, right?
Even the
Like you're not,
jokes.
it's not public.
How to get a strike on YouTube? Play Disney.
I thought you were gonna play it again then.
No,
Oh, you are.
Okay.
something happened at my dog.
Thank the Lord.
So anyway, the funny, it's hilarious if you can see it in real life, because what it's basically saying is it's like, you know, the circle of life and that whole idea. And then it's like the sun is just going, because it's agony, that whole process. There is agony in this cycle of life. And in talking about transitions and change and all of that, I need to get rid of some of these images on my, I can't see my, just a second.
Mark, if you pull the top of that down.
Right,
you'll
yeah, I
see-
Yeah.
That's it.
Can do that.
That's all. That's it.
If you should be able to see a bit better there.
I lost my cursor. Okay, so 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. So wherever there's going to be growth, we see that there's a process of planting and watering, and we see two people involved in this particular scripture. And then he says, the one who plants and the one who waters have one purpose. Our purpose is we want to see growth. And what I love about this scripture, if you go back to the very beginning, Paul talks about the fact that, and I'm going to show you in a second, it talks about the fact that those of you who are spiritual, those of you who are worldly. So he makes a point that if we're spiritual, then we understand this idea of someone plants, someone waters. It's a part of the cycle of life. It's a part of the process. Even so, and that's what the little video clip is supposed to show, is growth and expansion demand change, and change requires transition, and transition can be awkward or uncomfortable. So as far as transition or healthy transitions or this subject, what does it look like? It's important to have this understanding, foundational understanding. Transition is a spiritual thing. It is something that should be embraced. It's a good thing. It's not a negative thing. Where there is growth, there will be different seasons with different people involved. And at the same time, it's also important to see that transition is uncomfortable, because if we expect it to transition to be all sort of roses and everything, all these like warm feelies, then we're going to be probably very disappointed. And what I like to do a lot of times is show an illustration. I'll take two chairs. We won't do it today. 2 chairs, and I'll take someone that's sturdy like Matt Tapasoa, and I'll push the
So visual.
and I'll push the chairs just wide enough to where it's too far apart that you can put both feet on them at the same time. And so what you find is when both feet are on one chair and you start to make that transition over, there's a point in which that transition becomes uncomfortable, and the natural response is to go back to where you were comfortable.
So good.
And so as you know, every transition has that point where it's like as you're beginning to move forward and it becomes more and more